And we're rolling.
And we're rolling. Okay. Happy Monday.
Merry Christmas.
March 25th. The month is almost over. What the actual fuck? All hands meeting. I'll drive. Our OKRs. There are 3 of them. First is to become a trusted partner to post-secondary institutions and businesses. The second, is to provide user experience that cultivates impactful change. The third is to build a world-class community of ambitious people. Our key results. The first is partner satisfaction over 90%. The second is to have successfully launched 9 partnerships across 3 schools, post-secondary institutions. The third, customer satisfaction over 90%. The fourth, to hire 60 campus ambassadors. It's a new one. Love that contribution. Mr. Harkis. Number 5 is 4,000 active members. That's an annual goal. Hopefully we exceed it. And number 6 is 40% growth month over month, which we'll experience for the first time this coming month of April, and then May from there. We'll get to what our outcomes are, but as far as the agenda is concerned, review last meeting. I think when I say review last meeting, I mean action items.
Do we have a lot of action items from last meeting?
We do. If you look at the very bottom-ish of the doc, you'll see yours was to reach out to your doctor friend and start working on creating a grow group. Mine was to get manager feedback on writing off the event, and to reach out to I just added this one, so it's fresh. But reaching out to managers and incorporating reaching out to managers into the job description for the campus ambassador. And then there's a whole bunch of collaborative tasks that are going to be added to the collaborative time meeting invite, so that when we go to it, it's there. Anyways, we'll get to all that stuff. Just wanted to bring it to your attention. Finalize the agenda. Solutions. Anything that we need to add, particularly to the solutions part of the doc? I didn't get as much content strategy format. Yeah, it's because we didn't get to any of this last time.
No, we got cut short because we spent like 40 minutes on the stand-up alone.
Anything that need to add to that?
No.
I don't think so.
If not, we'll add it during the meeting.
Yeah, no, we're good. Okay, cool. Pulse check. How you doing, Mr. Harkis? Really?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Had some interesting encounters on the weekend. Those were pretty funny. Went on a little bit of adventure. Doing good deeds. Try to give some feedback. Got criticized because apparently wanting to know about somebody's business is a crime.
Why do you think she reacted like that?
I honestly don't know.
Psychoanalyze. Why do you think she answered like that?
I guess she didn't realize somebody would care as much about her business, and she just didn't want to talk about it, I guess. I had more enthusiasm than her, so.
You think it got her upset that somebody cared about her business?
I was asking questions, and then yeah,
So that's your conclusion?
I I don't know entirely, honestly. Like, I think she went there under the condition that people would be flirting with her, and that wasn't happening. So she seemed upset from that in the get go. Because she was told like, "Oh, I have my guy friends coming out. They're looking nice, whatever," and she got all dressed up for it, but the interest wasn't there. So I honestly think that she was just upset from that from the get go.
I see. Well, interesting. If I had to guess, I might say that like I've observed people get uncomfortable when you ask them detailed questions that they don't have the answer to. So maybe it's a function of lack of preparation on her end that she got insecure about when you asked her the questions. That would be a pretty normal response for somebody who doesn't have answers. But so it goes. Didn't really answer how you're doing, though. I mean, you said good, but really, how you doing?
Good. I'm doing fine.
Cool.
Had some fun experiences on the weekend. They were delightful. I became an employee of a bar I went to for about 3 minutes. I was handed a clipboard and I was letting people sign. Um, they're basically waivers so that like if they get injured on the ride, they can't sue, kind of thing.
How are you feeling about the week that you had?
Good. Could have got more messages in, but that was just a lack of clarity. So other than that, it's fine. Big news on Nick messaging Saturday morning, so that was incredible. And then with our little meeting, talking to him on Sunday, moving forward into this week is gonna be interesting with that. I'm
Tell the
excited.
class what happened.
Nick reached out because Zach, my brother, spoke to him about the business we're growing, and then he reached out because he's like, "Oh my god, I want to hear more." So I told him a bunch about it,
So
and
your
then
brother actually brought it up to Nick.
yeah,
I didn't.
he mentioned something about it, and Nick didn't know anything that was going on, so he reached out to me and was asking about it. So I answered a bunch of questions, told him all about it. And he's like, "Oh, I want to speak more. Like, I like the idea of doing the partnership program. You like our like all our values, our qualities, and what we stand for." So he wanted to bring it forward to his work, and that's why I suggested, okay, let's talk about this like in depth more over a meeting, not just texting, so we can get on the same page. And from there, he's now going to be like he already brought up to his boss. His boss thinks it's a good idea, so he's going to be basically pitching for us, like on behalf of Grow. He's going to be pitching Grow to Aurora Cannabis and to his executives. If that goes well, we're going to have a partnership with them, or at least a meeting to have like a proper face to face with us and Aurora Cannabis. But Nick is gracefully being our ambassador.
So I've heard offhand mention of executives, but I only heard him say that his boss told him to present it to HR. Where's the whole executive thing coming from?
HR executives
Like of the plant that he works at?
of Aurora Cannabis, yeah.
Well, of Aurora Cannabis being like the entire company or like the location that he works at?
I assume the location he works at, but I don't know how much into corporate they are. I don't know if they're on site HR or just in general, like corporate HR.
Yeah. It doesn't sound like this HR person's an executive. When you think executive Aurora Cannabis, it would be like the director of HR for the whole company. But it sounds like they have a bunch of locations, so it's probably an HR manager. But either way, really cool for sure.
Foot in the door.
Yeah, and got us starting on partnership conversations, which is interesting. Which is just some work on. Cool. I am doing well. Had a good Saturday and Sunday work wise in terms of I was just thinking well and doing a lot of good research, doing a lot of good like to do list stuff that you'll see in my done section shortly. Some forecasting, some just like thinking, some good thinking about myself in terms of communication style in certain settings when I monologue a bit, and or a lot, and starting to put more of a marketing and sales hat on with Grow, getting more and more out of the product phase. And yeah, my mind's in a million places all the time, so it's hard to just say a couple things, but definitely feeling good. Definitely feeling good. My rose since last time is handstands. I fucking loved doing handstands the other day.
This is really funny because in my feedback, I spoke about your handstands and I did not read your section.
That's awesome.
I literally gave you feedback on your handstand as part of it. So the fact that it's your rose, that's incredible.
Yeah, I loved it. Did them pretty much all day that one day, and then felt really fucking sore from carrying my body weight with my hands the next day. Um, but I like have this little circuit building of like chin ups, handstand over to that section, and then do some push ups. I really like it. I'm kind of leaning into the home workout thing. It feels pretty cool because I do it throughout the day. Um,
I like that.
and then I didn't write this, but it was funny to go to your buddy's house and do bench press. I've never tried to bench press even remotely that
You
much
hit
before.
225 on bench press, which is literally like 0.01% of people on the planet can even do that. It speaks to your like 10 years of being an athlete. I can tell you right now from personally, if you went to a gym right now, you'd see like one in every 100 people do that at workout and be able to hit it.
Yeah, it was cool. I've always thought of bench press as a bit of like a vanity exercise, so I've never really cared to do it, but I definitely did feel that caveman high after
The
lifting
reason
that.
why it's
It
held
was
so
cool.
high because it's the top three biggest muscle movements you can do for basically burning muscle, shedding muscle, and then releasing testosterone. The top three, I think it goes deadlift, squat, bench press. Those are the top three that do the most impact on your body in terms of
Mm.
moving a massive weight, which then releases more testosterone. You shed more muscle, so they're like the pinnacle of the three when going to the gym. When you talk about something that's like, oh, I'm part of the 1,000 pound club. The 1,000 pound club basically means however much you can weigh, like however much you can lift from your deadlift, squat, and chest combined. If you hit 1,000 pounds, you part of that 1,000 pound club as like a accumulation of effort. Now, taking some people will hit like 700 on a deadlift alone.
When I was in high school, I made up this thing called the Century Club, and it was basically you doing 100 of whatever it was. So it was like chin ups and curls. And I had all these non wrestlers in my fitness class. You just reminded me of that. That was so funny. You like 100 push ups, 100 V sits, 100 chin ups, 100 dips, 100 arm curls. You just did 100 of everything all the time.
I
It was
remember
so funny.
it reminds me of my fitness class in high school. Because it was like a co-ed class, I got into a fitness class, but I was like grade 12 with a bunch of grade 10s. There's a couple other
Oof.
grade 12s there, and the thing is, they were like there because they wanted to take the course, but they didn't take it seriously. Like they took it, but they didn't take
Yeah,
it seriously at all. I took it seriously, so the difference between me and them was insane.
I bet. I bet. Yeah, so the other thing that I checked off as a rose is progress with the to do list. Um, there's just so much to get to and so little time, but working all the time helps. Working well. Um, I've been really leaning into therapy, into developmental psychology specifically, but also I've been refining the Grow Social a lot in terms of like how the event functions, and like incorporating modalities of therapy that I like a lot
What's
in the way
modalities
that
mean?
um, it's basically like a discipline.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you say you're leaning into therapy, it's for the grow social, not for yourself.
I mean, it's in general, but I have a, I mean, I self soothe uh, quite well, especially with peer support. But I mean, like developmental psychology. I've been watching a ton of videos on the psychology of kids in parenting, and it's made a big like I see things in people's behavior that I never used to see. Um, the whole brain state thing that we were talking about a while ago is a big part of that. And also I'm just realizing there's so much more relationship psychology to bring into our world of peer support, like the way that people function in a romantic relationship, the arguments that they have, but also like the way that people can support each other is it's true of any relationship. And like I've already made a career for myself of talking about romance in an HR setting, just because the principles are the same and like it gets a good laugh out of people, but it's also really true. Um,
It's also very relatable.
yeah,
So it makes it easier for you to actually explain to somebody when you relate to something they can feel personally. I
yeah,
can't necessarily relate. If you relate only everything you do to HR, being in HR, then people that haven't been in HR are not going to recognize it. If you relate that to something in their life, they'll actually be able to grasp the concept.
yeah, and that's how I think a great teacher teaches anything, is to relate it to things that are understood. I watched this video last night about Uncle Iroh, and it was like a therapist and a movie buff guy. I think it's called Movie Therapy, the channel. It's one of my favorites.
I think you've spoken about this before.
Yeah, but this episode specifically was like the movie buff was like trying to get the therapist to go like one on one versus Iroh, and they just like it was funny, but it was good. And one of the things that they spoke about in the video was that Iroh will use like whatever's in the room as an example of the metaphor, or like as a metaphor for what he's trying to explain. And yeah, I definitely in my own way do that. And I think I've been focused more on like I've been making the Grow Social less of a traditional networking event and more of like a peer support experience. So I
Well,
have a. Were you gonna say something?
that's the whole point of our services. We don't need to be traditional. It's called originality. That's what I like about it. Part of, like when I was talking about the social event with Lucas, I'm like, yeah, we do a networking event to basically like show how good you are at networking. He's like, and Lucas, his response is, because I said there was a prize. Sorry, like for context, there's a prize for winning like the networking competition that we do.
Mm-hmm.
And Lucas is like, well, clearly I'm good at networking. I'm a manager. I'm like, all right, then put your test to it. Let's see how good you actually are. Right? I'm like, if it's that easy, then just win the prize. And he's like, oh, I might. I'm like, then do it. And I'm challenging him now. I'm like, you can say all you want, but the whole idea of this is we hand out cards, we rate them on the back, and you hand them out to people, and people rate how good at you are, like introducing yourself. And there's nothing to like hate on anyone else. We only put a competition because otherwise people wouldn't do it. But then when people do it and they actually try, you can see where you can improve. And everyone has somewhere to improve. You can be as good as you are, Lucas, but that doesn't mean you're perfect. There's always somewhere you can improve. And it changes. He's like, you know what? I think I will. I'm like, you should. And if you tell me you don't try, that's because you're going to say you don't try so that you don't have to feel the shame of losing. Because if I say, like, I go to this competition, oh, I didn't try, then it's like, oh, you can't hate on me because I didn't win because I wasn't trying, right? Because, if I tried, it would work. So it defeats that purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Or sorry, that excuse more so. But I
Yeah.
like the aspect of you wanting to make it more peer support driven, but how are you thinking of doing that?
So basically, the workshop at the beginning of the session, like there might end up being two workshops just so we can like or like a workshop and a keynote, whereas like the keynote will be some idea in my head or in our head, and but the workshop is like teaching people how to give good peer support. And so um I'll just this is a worthy digression, but actually it's not even a digression, but so there's a
Well, we're going to have more than one networking event, so that means we're going to have different workshops for each, right? They don't have to be the same ones for all of
yes and
them.
no. Like the point of the workshop is to prep people for actually like instead of just having time where people are gonna interact and like hand out business cards and talk to each other. Like before that, before we were talking about like people submitting questions or like parts of their life that are stressing them out, and then people will do it impromptu like there as well. So one of the prizes that because we were going to do two prizes before, one like for the best young professional and then one for the best like student or whatever. um, so now one of the prizes is for like the best peer support, like the best peer basically, and that might even only be the prize. um, like the idea of good networking, it's kind of like, what is that even, you know? And I'm much more interested in people I'm interested in people creating meaningful connections, and like the way to do that is peer support. Like that's way more effective networking than you being able to introduce yourself well, because who gives a fuck about your introduction if I don't like you? You know, if I don't know who you are, if we don't have a relationship, it doesn't matter what you do. Like if you lead with the relationship, you lead with the peer support, then I'm gonna ask you what you do. And like regardless of how good you are at explaining it, I'm going to I'm gonna want to know who you are so that I can return the favor and offer some value back.
But when you say doing different types of networking events where like the fundamentals are the same, but you might change like when I always looked at it, I'm like, we have the main portion of the networking event that won't change, but then there's an aspect like, you know, the build a friend workshop might be at one, whereas another one, it won't be the build a friend, it'll be something else.
Yeah, so I guess where I'm at with this is I like the idea of us having a shifting workshop, sure, but the thing that needs to stay the same is before people do the whole introduction icebreaker activity, like we need to teach them how to give peer support. So like
Yeah.
the intro now, when people give an intro, it's basically their name and then a rose, thorn, and bud. And like their thorn is the thing that's stressing them out the most. Their bud is actually, sorry, it's a rose, thorn, bud, and soil, whereas the soil is a piece of advice that they're like giving to the group. So a rose is a recent win, as you already know. Thorn is something that's stressing them out. Bud, something they're looking forward to. And like that's a good intro, you know? So we dedicate half an hour or whatever towards people that want to going up and doing that intro. Not everybody has to. And then people will be able to go off of that, as in like they'll have something to talk about when they're talking later. And then we actually do the networking event, bring everybody back. People are friends. There's some connections made. Blah blah blah. Then we can do a little workshop where people can then like leverage those relationships in the workshop, and then after that we let them mingle. But when it comes to like peer support in action during the event and the way that people help people, I just started putting together a model for that I'll get into another time, but or after we get through the agenda. But basically, it's like I used I used um, what is this called? Like a practical tool, like a communication model that people usually use when they're trying to communicate with someone that they're in conflict with, and turned it into a way that people describe their stress. um, and then there's like a response to that from other people, as in the right way to support them. So without getting into
So they had an experience and they're using that to teach other people.
no, so the person who's getting the help will say like my name's Kyle. In this situation context, I feel sorry. It's like I feel this emotion about this situation,
Okay.
and this is the result that I want. And then the advice that people give will be helping them get the result they want. But like the important thing is the way that they present the thorn, the thing that's stressing them out. It identifies the emotion they're feeling. It has them present the like context in a non-biased way that doesn't attach the situation to them. It just describes the context, and then it describes the solution, because like that's effective communication. So like if for example I said like um, I feel annoyed when in our meetings they're not productive, and so the solution that I want is like to feel like we're moving the business forward, or we're generating revenue or something, right? So it's like the
Is the
emotion that I'm
solution
feeling.
supposed to be an outcome?
Sorry, it's an outcome, not a solution.
Yeah, okay, I'm
Like,
just
so I would describe the outcome that I want. So I describe the emotion, like the situation, and then the outcome that I want, and then our conversation would be about
the,
that
sol-
outcome.
the solution to the outcome.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
that makes sense. I'm
So like,
here. This is how I feel. I'm here. This is where I want to be. Our
yeah,
conversation is going to get me from here to there.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So then there's a part of the meeting where I'm only not describing this well because I like just made it up, but and I'm not looking at it, but basically, this is a good way for people to like explain their context and then get help. And then there's a way that like I'm just playing with the ways that they do this in relationship therapy for peer support, because there is no effective model for peer support to do this that's like this deep, but the principle of the situation is the same. Even if I'm talking about something that I don't like about myself, like even if I'm talking about the fact that um like that I monologue in meetings, like that's the thing that I want to solve. Instead of saying the thing that I want to solve, like I talk about my emotion, the context, and then the solution. And like,
So outcome or solution?
sorry, I keep saying solution because
Okay.
I'm solution oriented, but
Just making sure
outcome.
that it's
Yeah, you'll see it when you see the typed up version. But yeah, it's really helpful. And if we equip people with that, like that's a big awesome outcome for them to go back to their life and to their work knowing how to do that. So I've been in deep with 2 feet, um, into therapy, and just making sure that this networking event forges real relationships, like I've done the networking thing for years in a professional setting. We've both done it for years in a social setting. It's like, just meeting someone, introducing yourself well, like that doesn't actually mean anything. It doesn't actually contribute to you having a meaningful relationship, like if you can add value or ask for help and get it, then you have a relationship, like that's networking. People think they know what networking is because the regular behavior is like, this will make great content later. But people think networking. I mean, what do you think Lucas thinks networking is? If you were to ask him right now, what do you think his answer would be?
from that conversation. It's I don't know. I think he probably has some decent understanding. Like you have to provide value in some way.
What do you think his answer would be if you said, why do you think you're a good networker? So you mentioned earlier, he referenced him being a good manager means he's good at networking. I was gonna say something about it, but I didn't. Why do you think he thinks being a good manager is related to networking well?
Because he's good at getting along with people.
Okay. So does he think that's what networking is? Is that the inference here?
I That's what I'm inferring, but I can't say for certain.
Yeah, I'm asking for your inference.
Yeah, in that case, yeah. But does he understand that it's not necessarily getting along with people? It's providing something to them. You can be a funny person, but what are you providing to them? That's where the
Yeah.
real networking comes.
So how would you define networking? Like, what do you think a good
And
networker does that the average person doesn't do?
exchanging some type of service, providing some type of service.
Adding value, yeah, being of service for
All
sure.
right.
I think that's a great
I'm good
answer.
at. I became manager because I was good at getting along with staff because I provided a good work output. Right. The reason why people liked me as a manager was because I was able to effectively run a team, organize us to get proper work done. I was providing value. I was adding to something. It wasn't just because I'm good at talking to people, but it was because I could actually sit here and go, hey, you're good at this, you're good at this, we're gonna put you here, we're gonna put you there, and then
Yeah.
give value to like my supervisors. Like, oh, if you're in charge, you're it's better off. It seems more organized. We're getting more work done. That's adding value.
So I would say, I like your answer. I would say that, like, a manager being good at their job, to for a manager only has two real jobs. One of them is to provide resources, and the other is to provide clarity. You heard me say that a million times. Jeff Hunter's words, but a part of like intrinsic motivation there that makes a manager great. Like that's what makes a manager good. That'll stop you from getting fired. You give everybody the clarity on what they need to get done and like the resources to do it. Now you're doing your job. But to be a great manager, like people should want to do well for you. You know? Like it's not like, oh, Anthony's good at scheduling shifts, so he's a good manager. It's like I love working with Anthony. Like when I work with Anthony, the shift flies by and we always do a great job. And if there's a problem, he solves it. And I like him so much, I try to solve the problems when there's a problem. Like that's a great manager, you know? And similar to that, a good networker is someone, yeah, that is socially intelligent, that like people want to be around, but also like somebody who forges deep relationships quickly, you know? Like you want to be the person that when you leave the social event, like somebody's thinking about you and that conversation that you had and the way you made them feel, or you know, the way you solved that problem or whatever. Like that's a good networker. Like people's traditional definition of this, I would love to pull the world, and I'm sure we will. We should actually do this at events, but like to start the workshop. But most people think a networker is just someone who's charismatic, and that's a big part of it. Like being likable is definitely a part of it.
I feel like it's too general though.
It's specific, but it's not complete. Like being popular isn't being a good networker. Being well liked isn't even being a good networker. Being someone that people think of when they want to get something done, you know, like that's a good networker. Like if you meet somebody and then 2 weeks later they hit you up because it's like, hey, we talked about X and you were really smart, so I want to get your help with this. Like that's a good networker. Because networking effectively is advertising. And the best way to advertise how good you are at something is to do it. I've just been thinking a lot about that because I didn't even I had a completely different answer to this a year ago. But yeah, relationship psychology has really deepened my understanding of the nuance here. I didn't even write that in the done, but social updated agenda. So this is gonna turn into, I haven't named it yet, but basically like the grow format for peer support. And like bro, it's so marketable and it's so sticky to have your own way of doing this shit. Like uh, this is, yeah, it's really good work. So I'm really proud of that. The thorn for the week is obviously the missed goals from last week. I feel like as much as it fucking pains me, everything happens for a reason. I feel like a part of the reason, it's funny, we were talking about imposter syndrome last week doing content and how I was saying like to use it as an indication that you need to prepare better. That's basically what I was doing all last week and what I feel like I'm closer to the tail end of now. I think I need to make myself uncomfortable and like start doing, but at the end of the week, we have things like a mission statement, you know, and like a proposal letter for partners and for managers, and just a whole bunch of stuff that makes it so much easier to talk about growth, that like I feel a lot better set up than I did last week for that. So still focused on those goals this week. The bud, selling tickets. I'm excited to sell some damn tickets. I'm excited because of what it'll do immediately to our finances, but also like we just are due for a reward for this work that's been put in, and I feel like people are excited to give us that reward. So we just need to receive it. You know, we just need to receive it and ask. So I need to get over and work through the things that are holding me back from asking, because at the end of the day, we're asking friends to come to these first events more than anybody, and they're pretty much going to come regardless. So it doesn't need to be as perfect as I'm trying to make it. I know that it's not lost on me, but it is like it's a tough thing for me to deal with.
Well, it's also this is our presentation. They're gonna come to support, but you really want to bring all your friends here and then be like, yeah, I did a half-ass job with this.
Yeah, and I mean the interesting thing is the event like somehow keeps getting better, but as as I focus, it's like as I get ready to pick up the phone to call somebody, which I can't currently do, but if I when I get myself ready to call, it's like I haven't thought about how to talk about this stuff. I've just been building dope shit, you know? And while that is enough to invite them, because when we host this event, it'll be great. I do want to perfect the pitch because it'll make it easier for the team to do later. Realistically, I only need to do this for a month, maybe 2 months, and then another month in July when we first get to BC. But really, I don't have to do it that much, so I need to just get over it. The soil, I've been really like enjoying my sleep and waking up early, um, doing more handstands, conversations that are restorative. I feel like I feel like tonight maybe or tomorrow I'd be super down to just have another like shisha night and just like talk. I feel like I really underestimate how much. I mean, I don't. I don't underestimate how impactful like hanging out is, but I don't make time for it, especially not with you, which is ironic because you're right fucking beside me. Like I literally talk to Beej more than I talk to you, which is like
Fucking insane.
it's really insane, but it's a function of things. And so yeah, I want to make time and like get out of the house and relax and like I don't know, she's not that much. We should also maybe re up on our experiment and get some time in. But yeah, I feel like conversations are restorative and ideas come from them, and also like so much shit is happening that it's hard. Not that it's hard, but like if we don't schedule time to continue to invest in the relationship and in communication. Like we have issues with departmental communication right now when we're sitting like this, you know? Only in the sense that like there's a lot of shit going on that like you don't see or have the opportunity to collaborate on because we're not making as much time. And I on Friday I added another collaborative session to our days so that we made more time for this in lieu of this, like to work on it, um, because I'm noticing it, but it's only going to get harder. Like literally by the end of next week, it'll be harder than it was this week. And so like I'm adjusting the calendar so much because I'm thinking not just of now, but of the future. Um, but yeah, there's that. My update on done. New pricing is not there anymore.
You take a picture of it?
Yeah. Basically, just going off of the feedback that you got from whoever the fuck, Liam, whoever, um,
About
the whole like association with the pyramid scheme thing. So we're like leaning into the group discounts that you proposed that we've talked about instead of the whole active member thing necessarily. Um, I just adjusted pricing because of that. Um, and then event revenue budgeting. It's basically $700, $600 an event. Um,
plus the deposit.
yeah, but aside from that, because we really only have to budget for that once. The uh, the event itself, like with the editing, some photography, blah blah blah, should be around about $600. And then I did a monthly forecast for us from April to September. Um, so
No, continue.
um, because I realized that like we need to over index. Like we need to go even harder than I thought we needed to go on hiring before we leave because we can't hire as much when we're gone. And and like basically we want training to be done before we leave so that when we're gone, like we're playing a support role, but like people feel supported.
On that note, there's my mother's birthday in July, which Paul wants me to come back for. So
Mm.
ideally, I come back there. And I was already thinking of incorporating, like, I'll just come back for the week, stay at my mom's or whatnot, and then hopefully, if something's going down, I can be in person down here at least for the week. And that's at
Yeah,
the end of July, though. So whether it be like I come back on the Friday, have the weekend there, and then come back to be like meet you in BC, come like the beginning of, I think it's August.
yeah,
June,
yeah.
July, yeah, June, July, August. We can also incorporate that as a week as I'll come back here and see what I can get done here in terms of like getting more people on their feet or figuring what's happening down here. But
Yeah, so the reason why this relates so well to the financial forecast is because I'm really glad you brought that up. It's because I'll basically want you to come back on like a Thursday night, Friday morning, and then stay for 8 days. Because that way we can you can do two socials here.
yeah,
So if you can do two socials, your mom's birthday and training, then
oh,
you just spent a good week.
no, that's the whole point. Because
Yeah.
like, well, Paul was like, no, like if you'll come, I was like, I'll make it happen. This was part of the thing I'm putting thought into. I'm like, I don't like, I want to come back for the 3 days, but it's better if I come back for like a week or 8 days, like you said, and get more done. Just use that time,
Yeah.
jumble it all together. Like I'm coming back for this. What can I do here to make it even more worthwhile? So it's like,
Yeah. And those are the three things. Um, I'll even make a note here in action items. Plan, plan training and grow social events around your mom's B day.
July 19th, July 20th.
Yeah, you plan it, put it in calendar, all that good stuff. Um, yeah, you'll see when we go through it, but I basically scheduled um, an approximate number of events to do in Toronto when we start doing them in Niagara. And then, like, they'll be able to keep going when we're not here pretty easily. But if you can come back in July for two of them, then perfect. Um,
Plus, I'll be about
and
the
then,
middle
yeah,
way because we're gone for June, gone for most of July. I come back for the 1 week. Then we're gone for August, and I come back in September while you're still in BC,
yeah, yeah,
which we also have to plan for that as well in terms of setting up, moving somewhere in Toronto. Come,
yeah. That'll, we won't go shopping for a place until you're back. And it'll be kind of, you can find a place late August, get somebody to literally look at places like for us basically, which I can do, and and then move into the place in September. Yeah, which is another reason why I did that forecasting because like we need a lot of money.
no, I know
oh,
that.
also you keep saying Toronto. We need to go to Niagara first. We need to go to Niagara first because of Brock. So this will be a non-issue because there's only two places in Niagara I'm really interested in living. So,
There's one in Toronto.
yeah,
Wow, I guess this is easier. Now we have two places in Niagara.
um, yeah, no, Niagara first because then we also come home. If we did what we're supposed to do, we come home to a Tesla as well. But if we go to Toronto first, then we come back to a big, nice, empty condo with nothing in it and no mobility, which is not good.
Well, I'll sell my car.
Yeah, but you want to break up with it,
I do, but I'm not gonna break up with it until we have the Tesla.
which is why we're going to Niagara.
Yeah, but still, I'll keep the car just in case.
Yeah, you
Let my
should.
brother use it or whatever. I don't really care about that, but
Yeah,
like when we leave, I just essentially have to park it somewhere for like $15. Like it'll cost like $15 a month for fire and theft because I won't be driving it.
yeah. I'm sure we can figure that out in Niagara if not closer. Um, yeah, so this forecasting, it's not crazy because we're just moving to Niagara, which means we just need a couple grand. But I do want to have like, ideally, I want to have like, let's say 4 months of rent and four car payments as we start,
Yeah.
So it's like first, last, and we have 2 months of life covered. Ideally four, um, but we'll see where we are. I didn't do any financial forecasting for the Grow community. Um, I just did it for the Grow socials.
Well, the grow community is mainly like us doing that at the moment, but
No, I mean income.
oh, income coming from it.
Yeah.
That's what you meant by
So
financial forecasting. I thought you
yeah.
meant cost of running it.
No, no, no. I mean, it's relatively looked after already. But I mean, like I'm trying to. I mean, I am budgeting for us to be able to live and work off of the income from the socials, which is a part of the reason why over-indexing on the quality of that event is so important because we want people to come back. Like what's going to happen in Niagara is I'm going to be like, I'm throwing this event, blah blah blah. Some Brock people are gonna come, but a lot of my friends are gonna come, and I'm gonna want it to be dope enough that people want to keep coming. You know, like not I went to one, but like when's the next one? You know, and I know for sure that that's gonna happen in Toronto and in Niagara and even in BC. And then once that happens, it's like now we know we have based on the like group of people that are repeat customers, like I know we'll at least be able to pull off plus the campus ambassadors in Toronto, like we should average 2 events a month in Toronto, one event in Niagara, one event in BC, and like and then that just builds. But if we do that, then we know we have 6 grand a month, and then eventually eight, and then eventually 10, blah, 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 just from that. And if we're doing that just from that, like our income isn't really going to scale until towards the end of the year, but that's fine. We just need to be able to cover our expenses and save. Like we'll basically be making 6 to 8 grand. This is also not, I'm saying 6 to 8 grand, including sponsorship a month, from now until like, I don't know, July, August, and then September will be expensive for us, but also awesome from a revenue perspective. Um, and then life will be different after September. Like in September, we've got basically 3 weeks to be a part of. One at Brock, one or several in Toronto, and then one or several in BC. So yeah, there's just a lot to talk about that comes with that, which is why I'm saying it would be cool to get out of the house and get some shisha or something like that and just kind of chat. But that's that. I know this is taking a long time, but that's because we have a lot to talk about. Um, any thoughts on this Niagara stuff, the budget stuff? We'll go through it later, but any initial thoughts?
No, makes sense.
Next on the list is new member acquisition funnel, which we've spoken about reasonably enough. It's basically like moving forward, reaching out to people. Like we're telling them about Grow before we tell them, like while we tell them we have a job, we tell them about Grow. And that first interview that we were scheduling is a discovery meeting, which they look at as service from us, which it is because we are going to give them advice. But it'll also introduce them to our services. And if the conversation goes well, then we cherry pick them, you know? And basically, that makes it easy for the campus ambassadors too. When they're reaching out to people on campus or otherwise, it's just like, hey, here's Grow, blah, 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 blah. Like, I've been trained, I work for them. I've been trained to like do these sessions. Like, do you want to schedule one? Okay, great. And then they schedule 30 a month and they get 15, and we're happy, or at least they don't get fired. But yeah, So those are the thoughts there. Next, format and communication style. This is for me, but it'll benefit you as well. I did a like couple hours, say like two, maybe more ish hours, um, like doing a really research intensive, like creating a format for how I want to speak when I'm in certain settings that I've been monologuing in, including when we're making content off the cuff. And it has a lot to do with like this style and like yeah, style for communication
Does that
for
vary depending on the content?
slightly, but it's more like when I have something to talk about, like basically structuring it more like content. But there's I'll have to show you, and it's not all done, but it's like it's done, but I'm still iterating. But it's like a format to keep people engaged and make it easier for people to participate in conversations uh, where I'm like trying to explain something complex. Because usually when I'm monologuing, it's not because I'm in a teaching or coaching session. It's not because I'm in a sales or, like professional setting. It's not because I'm in a casual, like social setting. It's usually specifically when I'm trying to explain something complex. Like I'm having like deep, like kind of conversation, which is why you and Beige experience it the most. Um,
But that, so is your goal to basically open up more opportunities for participation on the other person's behalf?
that's one of the goals. Yeah. Like the goal is just to speak well, is how I'm talking about it. Well meaning concisely, well meaning in a more like engaging emotionally and intellectually kind of way. Like I do it really well in most aspects of my life. I would say I do it exceptionally well. But there are certain types of conversation that I don't do it well in. And it's not so much that it's not okay, because it is okay. Like if I'm talking to you about this stuff, like, it's not overly productive for me to be like making metaphors and asking you questions and hooking you into the next point. Like you just need to listen at some point and like engage as you're listening, but like it's not the same. Um,
But there's still like an efficiency matter.
well, that's the thing. Like if I'm deep diving on something, then I want you to have a deep understanding of it. Like it's not the same as content or like passive conversation, but like if I'm talking about the psychological nuance of the grow social, like you as a founder, especially someone who's going to be running these events, like you need to understand it at least fractionally as well as I do. Like a high level, it's not going to be good enough, especially not if you're going to be teaching it. Far less if it's a company of yours. So
Well,
like,
yeah.
you know, in these instances, like, yeah. So I'm still figuring out that, but progress is being made. The next one's it's kind of funny, um, but if you open Discord and click on my guy, you're gonna see
It's the animation that you
yeah,
changed yesterday in the middle of the meeting with Nick.
yeah,
I know I was using my personal account, which I might switch going forward because the context of that was if you look at the image, my name is appearing peach because that was the gamer tag I got from like Microsoft when I first made an Xbox account.
Is that Goldberg?
I don't know who it is, but it's a ripped dude in a WW thing with a hammer between his
Oh, it's
legs.
Triple H.
And
It's Triple H.
my name is appearing peach because I went back to my original gamer tag that was given to me when I made an Xbox account when I was a kid. It was like, we'll give you a namer tag, and the namer tag I got was appearing peach one. I kept it. But when I swapped it to that image, I changed my name on Discord to Mr. Sister Fister.
Very nice. Yeah. So
The
it has
slogan
this.
was Mr. Sister Fister, you got a sister and I'm here to fist her. How can I help you?
Charming as ever.
But the appearing peach was reputable because I always liked playing like the female character in a game. So during the period of time where me and my friends played a lot of GTA 5 when it came out, I grinded really hard and I was a high level. I got really good at the game too, especially when I was into it. And people just assumed that appearing peach was a woman because I would run around as a woman
Mhm.
with my like pink or purple cars, and then I would destroy people. There was a lot of PvP aspects, and I was really good at it. So they'd be like, "Oh my god, I got whooped by a woman." I'm like, "Yeah, you just got whooped by an elite player, my guy."
Lol. Um, yeah. So Avatar. I'm gonna fix it eventually later, but I actually edited my YouTube handle to say Mr. Golden Rose with the same guy. It's pretty fun making that while I was in the washroom one day. Proposal doc. We'll go through this, but I'll send you one of the versions now. We'll be able to send that note to Nick shortly, but this isn't the version that Nick's gonna get. Nick's just gonna get like a core part of this. But what I just sent you, um, it's a Alex Hermosi version of a rough draft script that I put together. Um, yeah, ignore the top part. Just look at the core offerings. Um, so the thing that's dope about them is it references modern data and describes what the event is in a very effective way. That's basically like the core offerings and the value statement are basically what we're going to be giving to Nick. But yeah, I'm assuming you're reading them, so I don't have to. But custom workshops, grow groups, one-to-one performance coaching, affiliate and recruitment marketing, and then the growth MBA. The ever evolving mission statement: we accelerate the careers of young professionals with professional peer support, ed tech, and high growth opportunity. Speaks really well to what we do. Thank goodness we came up with that the other day. So, more on that later. ID new assessment quiz to do. So, I realized that the next assessment after the love literacy one is going to be a stress one. That's the one that I've wanted to make and I've done a ton of research on that I did last summer.
Isn't that similar to the life chart?
No, it's about archetyping how you react, like how you react and then respond to stress. So it's not related. It's more related to romanticized stress in terms of the modules, but it's a really because the thing about the love literacy quiz is um, it's not it's not very corporate friendly, you know? Like it is effective for corporate use, but not as effective as the stress one. So I wanted to put I mean, I've wanted to do this for years, but I wanted to put something together that well, something that's way more uniquely my thinking, my idea, but also something that like we can give to companies when we partner with them to their staff.
So is it a different version of love literacy quiz that is directed towards businesses?
No, so it's still a quiz for individuals to tell them to assess how they respond to stress and like what stresses them out. Um, I think it'll end up having to do with values as well, because most of conflict has something to do with values. But yeah, values and stress. Basically, what are your values? So it's closer to the build a friend workshop in a sense, although I want to do that separately as the third assessment. But yeah, the stress one is more like how do you act when you're stressed? Like I get really cold and calculated.
Same.
Yeah.
So would you
Uh,
say it's like the love literacy quiz is more like a personal endeavor, whereas the stress assessment is more of a professional endeavor.
They're both, but one is like naturally associated with your personal life more,
Well,
whereas
that's
the
what I
other one,
mean.
yeah.
Like the
But I
main
mean,
focus of
they
the love
are.
literacies will affect your personal life more usually, but like it still affects your professional life.
It shouldn't. It should affect both. It's just that when you call something the love literacy quiz, it's obviously going to get looked at that way. Um, the love literacy quiz is going to be more attractive to young professionals than any group, whereas the stress assessment, like managers are going to want their teams to do. I don't know. I don't remember if. Oh yeah, you have. Oh fuck, you should totally do this today. There's two assessments that it would be great for you to do. They both cost like, I don't know, 20 or $30 to get the full results, but you'll love to have your results. Actually, let me show you really quickly how great these results are.
In digression,
Yeah.
I need to figure if this thing has caffeine in it.
If what does?
That
Does. It says cappuccino on it.
yeah, I'm gonna need to be careful with that in terms of my pre-workout.
Yeah, you definitely did. Did you not go to the gym yet, or you did?
No, I did. That's why. That's why I
Oh,
was kind of like jittering over here.
yeah.
Too much caffeine is not good for me, and I already cut back the caffeine in my pre-workout.